sure most people wish they were stranded on a desert island with Sydney Sweeney wearing nothing but coconut shells. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So although at that time the movie didn't happen, in 1980 Crichton's story was published into a book, of which was supposedly part of his contract with 20th Century Fox. And it's also said that while writing the book and trying to come up with the story, Crichton suffered writer's block, which he treated by the aid of an isolation tank. Incidentally, you know how in the movie, the Peter Elliott character explains that gorillas aren't dangerous but are actually very gentle, only later to see gorillas that are indeed very dangerous and not so gentle. Well, in the book, it's explained that the grey, vicious gorillas that our main characters come up against are like that because they are hybrids of gorillas, chimpanzees, and humans, hence their aggression. Yeah, they kind of skipped that important detail in the final film. Number 8. Then there was a video game fiasco. So Crichton never lost sight of further adapting his Congo story into some kind of media, and so in the early 80s he decided to adapt it into an interactive video game graphic adventure for Telerium, as Crichton had an interest in computer games and computer programming, so the Congo video game adventure was being developed. However, there was one problem. Crichton had already sold off the adaptation rights to Congo and thus didn't have the legalities to make a video game based on it. So the game was reworked with a change of location, where it became Amazon. Yep, no longer Congo, now Amazon. And in the game, the expedition were no longer looking for diamonds, but emeralds. And Amy, the talking gorilla, became Paco, the talking parrot. Despite Crichton's disappointments with the game's limitations, it was still a bestseller and got praised for its graphics. Yeah, look, this was long before your Grand Theft Autos and your Red Dead Redemptions. We gotta cut it some slack. Number 7, production getting back on track. So after Crichton walked away from Congo's production, there were several other directors considered to replace him, including John Carpenter and Steven Spielberg, where it seemed that the production fizzled out. However, in the late 80s, Crichton tried again to jumpstart the production, but once again it seemed to go nowhere. However, in the 90s, the production was back on track and picked up by Paramount Pictures. It's almost as if there was another Michael Crichton movie, which just so happened to come out round about that time, which was huge and suddenly created a vested interest in adapting his stories. Gee, I wonder what that could have been. Supposedly, Crichton didn't really have much to do with the eventual movie, if anything, with the screenplay being written by John Patrick Shanley, who previously wrote Moonstruck and wrote and directed Joe vs. the Volcano. In fact, Shanley also wrote 2 songs for the movie, those being Marooned With You and the Cowboy Song. According to Wikipedia, the movie's early teaser poster credited both Michael Crichton and John Patrick Shanley as writing the script. But that was soon corrected with Shanley being credited as the sole writer, but based on a story by Crichton. So there was no Crichton, no Connery, and no real gorillas walking about the place. So, what did they have? Number 6. The film could have had a lot more Bruce Campbell. When it came to casting Congo, the legendary Bruce Campbell auditioned to play the movie's main lead of Dr. Peter Elliott, which would have been amazing, but sadly he didn't get the part. That's a shame. He would have felt right at home in this bonkers movie and would have made it so much better. But he did get the smaller role of Charles Travis, who sadly dies like in the first 5 minutes. Wow, what a waste of Campbell and his amazing chin. That's one lousy participation award if I've ever seen one. The part ended up going to Dylan Walsh, who I don't think I've even seen in anything else. In fact, as a kid, I always thought he was played by the same guy who played Billy Peltzer in Gremlins, aka Zach Galligan. It must have been the hair. Laura Linney plays the movie's main lead of CIA-trained electronics expert Karen Ross. But don't worry, despite being called Karen, she never asks to speak to the manager. This is a cool Karen. Ernie Hudson played the smooth and slick Captain Monroe Kelly, the part originally written for Sean Connery. And according to IMDb, it's Hudson's favourite film role that he's ever played. The legendary Tim Curry played the Romanian philanthropist, who I always felt was meant to be this movie's bumbling comic relief. Delroy Lindo plays a military officer. Just whatever you do, don't eat his sesame cake. Even if he offers it to you, just don't touch it. And finally, Joe Don Baker as the head of a high-tech company who is behind the expedition. And it just feels like he is really let loose, and sometimes it often feels like he's in full James Bond villain mode. Which makes sense, as he actually did play a Bond villain. Seriously, 1987, The Living Daylights. Number 5, The Congo, located in California. Congo was directed by frequent Steven Spielberg collaborator Frank Marshall. After producing many Spielberg-related movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Poltergeist, Gremlins, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, when the 90s arrived, he tried out directing too, having previously directed Arachnophobia in 1990 and Alive in 1993. The movie was also produced by his wife, Kathleen Kennedy, as in that producer that everyone loves. Despite being set in Africa, most of the movie was filmed at a creek ranch in Simi Valley, California, as well as sound stages at Paramount Pictures in Hollywood. However, according to BulletProofAction.com, the crew went to do some filming at the site of a real active volcano in Costa Rica, which is also regarded as the world's most active volcano. And in order to get to the location, all the equipment had to be carried by hand, as well as on a raft and a four-wheel drive. So, some pretty intense, ballsy filmmaking. Number 4, bringing the wildlife to life. Okay, so seeing how we see several gorillas in Congo, as well as a hippopotamus, coming out in the wake of Jurassic Park, it was originally intended for the gorillas and hippos in the movie to be CGI. I mean, I guess that seemed the logical step. However, it was felt that the CGI technology just couldn't create convincing-looking hair for the gorillas. So they were created the good old-fashioned way, to use actors in suits and animatronics. And yeah, look, I know a lot of people criticize the animal effects in Congo, but to me, this is still so much better than CGI. For a start, you can actually see it. It's in the picture, it's there. It's not some computer graphic added later in post. And it was none other than the legendary Stan Winston and his team coming on board to bring the animals to life in Congo. In addition to all of that, the volcano and lava in the movie was achieved by model work. And also, none other than Fred from Scooby-Doo voice actor Frank Welker provided some of the gorilla vocal effects. Now, keep in mind, the same year that Congo came out, Jumanji also came out. And some of the CGI animals in that movie do look very rough. Keep in mind, provided by the same special effects team that did the special effects for Congo. Hey! I love Jumanji, but I think the production of Congo were wise to go with suits and puppets. Although, sadly, Stan Winston wasn't entirely happy with the end result of the gorillas. He felt Amy looked too fake, and supposedly no one liked how the grey gorillas looked, because they were being filmed against a red rock surrounding, with no plants or shrubbery, and it was felt that the lighting couldn't do the gorilla costumes any justice, and thus just made them look too fake. Once again, I'll point you to the animal effects in Jumanji, and then tell me the animals in Congo looked bad. Number 3, the music of Congo. So the music for Congo was provided by the late and great and always reliable Jerry Goldsmith. Now there's something of an interesting fiasco involving the music of Congo. When the movie's production started in the late 70s and 80s, Jerry Goldsmith was already on board as the movie's composer. After all, at that stage, Michael Crichton was going to direct, and Goldsmith had just scored Crichton's previous movie, The Great Train Robbery. However, when the production started up again in the 90s, The Sixth Sense and Dark Knight trilogy composer James Newton Howard was hired to compose the movie. And apparently he did provide some music for Congo, namely creating the tribal chant. But he then had to leave the production. So instead, the movie's original intended composer, Jerry Goldsmith, was hired to score the movie. Again, which he did, and does a splendid job. Incidentally, that year, he also scored First Night, a movie that was made by a complete creep, and the Star Trek Voyager TV series. Number 2, action figures. So in order to capitalise on some merchandise and reach out to the kids, there was a lineup of Congo action figures. And why not? The Jurassic Park and Terminator 2 action figures that preceded them were a huge hit. Sadly, the Congo action figures didn't enjoy the same levels of success, as they just came and went and none of the kids were really talking about them or playing with them in the school playground. Or at least, not in my part of the world. In fact, I don't even remember seeing them anywhere. Now look, okay, the packaging was bright and colourful, but I just don't think the abundance of human characters would have appealed to kids, nor would the gorillas, or at least not like the dinosaurs did for Jurassic Park, which actually really did capture children's imaginations. There was also a Congo pinball machine, and although it looks good, I mean, come on, this does look great on display, it was an absolute turd toaster to play. One of those games where you just can't get the ball to go anywhere, but rather just constantly losing it, forcing you to spend more quarters. But to be fair, it's kind of a well-known fact that pinball games based on movies were never the best, and a little rough around the edges as they were quickly cobbled together to cash in on said movie's popularity. But seriously, the pinball balls are constantly falling down the slots. You just can't stop them. Oh no, come back! Yeah, the Congo pinball machine was constantly making you lose your balls. I really should have thought of a better way to word that sentence. Number 1, better than expected. Teaser trailers for Congo were being shown with the screening of fellow Paramount Pictures release, Star Trek Generations, in order to get people buzzed and excited for Congo. And it seemed to have worked, as Congo was released in June 1995 and made $152 million on its $50 million budget. According to Wikipedia, the movie performed better than expected, suggesting that the powers that be didn't have much faith in the movie, like they saw it and were like, no, this is not going to be a hit. But, surprise, it was. If I had to guess why, it's probably because its marketing tied it to being from the creator of Jurassic Park. And back then, everyone loved Jurassic Park, so connecting it to that movie no doubt helped. The movie, however, got mixed to negative reviews.
If you want to send some stuff to me so I can check out what you have sent, please send it to this exact address. However, you may only send some stuff that I am interested in. No airplane, okay? Because if you send something like this, I will make sure that I will tell you that I do not like this film at all. Unless if you would send me that Zucker Abraham Zucker free film collection set that I'm gonna get for top secret, well, you can probably tell that I'm not gonna get it for airplane, I'm not gonna get it for Naked Gun, I'm only getting it just for top secret. However, I do think that you should send the set as a whole because, let's face it, it's a big deal. So make sure you send stuff like this, or this, or this, or this. And yes, even Airplane 2 the sequel. Oh, and get this, a special collector's edition of Twister, complete with a steelbook that features not only the secondary poster artwork, but the image of the pipe scene on the back. Heck yeah, I'm getting this. Well, actually, we do have the double feature set, which consists of Twister and Twister, so we're pretty dang close. And also Airplane 2 the sequel, which had this cover. Just look at those nuts! I can't keep up with them all! And even the one in the original theatrical poster! Like, look at it! And just look at this poster for the worst film of all time! I mean, come on, do they really need to tie that plane up into another? I mean, that part never actually happened in the film! I mean, they clearly just used a toy model plane! Like, come on, really? And yes, this is what the plane actually looks like in the film. And here's another image of that same goddamn plane model, also from the film. God damn it, I hate this film. And its different titles, like this one known as Flying High, but I would refer to the film with this title. I just hated it so much. So make sure you send in to this address, and I hope to God I will look at them. And in the words of the good old immortal named Connor McLeod,
there can be only one.
If you came to party, make some noise.